Welcome to The Explainer. So today we're jumping into this really powerful idea from a classic sermon. It's a paradox, really. How can one single thing, the very same object, be a foundation for salvation for one person, but a total stumbling block for another? It all comes down to a single, critical choice.
All right, so let's get right into the heart of the puzzle this sermon lays out. It kicks off with this really fascinating situation. You have a group of people, ancient Israel, and they are so passionate, so zealous about following a law to achieve righteousness. I mean, you'd think, okay, they're going to nail this, right? But the sermon says they failed. They stumbled. So the big question is, how? How can trying so hard to do everything right actually lead you to fall flat on your face?
Okay, so if we're going to crack this puzzle, we have to figure out why all that passionate effort didn't work. The sermon's pretty clear. It wasn't because they weren't trying hard enough. No, it was about the way they were trying. And the whole problem, it seems, gets framed as a choice.
A choice between two totally different paths. You've got the path of works, and you've got the path of faith. And this is the core of the whole argument. The reason they stumbled? It's right there in that choice. Are you trying to earn your way there, or are you simply receiving it as a gift through faith?
And check this out. When you see them laid out side by side, the difference is just, wow, it's stark. You've got the path of works over here. This is the one Israel pursued, right? It's all about law, all about self-effort. And the outcome? A stumble, a total failure. But then, look at the other path, the path of belief. It's not something you earn, it's a gift. It's based on faith. And the result? Righteousness. So you see, the sermon isn't just saying here are two options. It's laying out two completely different destinies.
Now this is the real kicker. The problem wasn't the law was fine. It was all about how it was being used. By focusing so much on works, on human effort, they took something that was meant to be a guide, a light, and they twisted it. They turned it into a weapon of judgment. And that right there, that focus on what I can do, is what the sermon says led them straight into blindness and ultimately failure.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting. To explain all this, the sermon uses this brilliant central metaphor. It's all about one single stone, but that one stone has two completely different fates. Think about that. The same exact object can have two totally different meanings, and it all depends on how you approach it.
So first up, for the people on that path of belief, this stone is everything. It's the chief cornerstone. You know, when you're building something, the cornerstone is the most important piece, right? It sets the alignment for the whole structure. It's what everything else rests on. And that's exactly what this stone is for them, the absolute foundation of their salvation. But, and this is the crazy part, for those who are on the path of works, that exact same stone becomes something totally different. It turns into a stone of stumbling. It's not a foundation to build on anymore. Nope, it's now an obstacle, something that's in their way, something they trip right over. It's just wild. The same object, two completely opposite outcomes. And there's this quote from the source text that just hits the nail on the head. It says, "The stone which the builders rejected has become the chief cornerstone." The sermon points out that these builders are the ones trying to build up their own righteousness through works. They looked at this cornerstone and they were like, nah, we don't need this. They just tossed it aside, totally missing the fact that it was the single most important piece of the whole puzzle.
So, what are the consequences of rejecting the cornerstone? Well, it's not just that your building project fails. According to the sermon, it kicks off this massive, surprising reversal, a real flip of the script where the people you'd think are first in line actually end up last.
Yeah, it describes how the insiders, the ones who thought they were close, because they had the law and were doing all the things, they were the ones who were ultimately set aside. It's like their perceived closeness didn't matter at all because their entire approach was built on unbelief, not faith. And then, in their place, you have the outsiders, the ones the text calls far off, and they're brought right in. The amazing thing is they weren't striving for it. They weren't working for it. The sermon says they were brought near just through belief. They were given the very righteousness that the first group was trying so hard and failing to achieve.
To really make this point stick, the sermon uses another great metaphor, a vineyard. Imagine the owner has these tenants, but they just aren't producing any fruit. What does the owner do? He takes the vineyard away from them and gives it to new tenants, ones who will actually bear fruit. It's such a clear picture, right? Stewardship is transferred based on results, on fruitful belief, not on who was there first.
So all of this, the two paths, the stone, the great reversal, it all leads up to the sermon's final call. And this isn't just an intellectual exercise. It's not just a deep theological dive. It wraps up with a very direct warning and a call to action.
And the whole tone shifts, really. It moves from explaining something to applying it. And it does that by asking this really simple, direct question. What then shall we do? Suddenly, it's not a story about people from long ago. It becomes about you, about me. Now that we've seen the two paths, the question is on the table. What are we going to do?
And the sermon doesn't just ask the question and walk away. It gives a really clear 4-step answer. Step 1, humility. You have to fall upon the stone and be broken. Step 2, let go of that pride, that arrogance that comes with the path of works. And then, steps 3 and 4 are all about focus. Remain steadfast. Keep your eyes locked on that chief cornerstone.
And that leads to this final warning, which is, man, it's probably the most intense part of the whole sermon. It lays out a choice with 2 and only 2 possible outcomes. You can choose humility, you can voluntarily fall on that stone and let it break your self-reliance, or you can do nothing and wait for that same stone to fall on you, which results in total destruction. The text says it will grind you to powder. I mean, the imagery is so powerful. There is absolutely no middle ground here.
So, there you have it. The two paths. The paradox of the stone, and that incredibly stark choice. And after all of that, the sermon just ends with one final, definitive statement. He is master of all. And that kind of leaves us to think, doesn't it? We're not just left with a clever argument, but with this massive claim of ultimate authority. And it brings us to one last question to chew on. What does it really mean for us today, if that cornerstone isn't just a foundation, but is also the master of everything?